Hello everybody, Mythro Dragoon here, and now today we are going to move on from the Sarcosuchus to what I think might be another contender for best playable in the entire game, especially right now, and that is the Suchomimus. Yes. So not only are we going to be showcasing a bit of what this dinosaur can do, but we're also going to be growing it. Because I have not grown one on this server yet. So, it's gonna be, oh, well, this stinks. Please don't kill me, good sir. It told me there were no players near my home cave, and it lied. Every time. Only when I start a recording does shenanigans happen. Then the rest of the video is usually just... Go away. I don't like chat on. Well, he seems pretty chill, because we are still very small. And that is a fight we would absolutely lose. Like, no questions, we're just gone if he chooses to eat us. I'd be getting a taste of my own medicine. Taking a bit of a risk here, but let's start getting quests from the quest giver. Alright. Collecting hearts isn't that bad. What is he biting at? As long as it ain't me. Oh, albino critter! Oh, hopefully he doesn't try and steal this from me. I need this. This is one of those situations you're about to see where either this is going to go really well, or it's going to go exceptionally bad. Either that Sarco is going to let me have this, or he's just going to kill me because he wants this critter. But I can't afford to pass this up. I gotta hit that waystone too for a quest. So Suchomimus is the same principle as Sarco in terms of wanting to use water. But Suchomimus differs in the sense that this is also far better on land, as it is a theropod dinosaur, which means I can more comfortably traverse land. In fact, Sucho is quite good on land. If you choose, you can even choose to make a full land build instead of being a semi-aquatic. But I like aquatic. I like going for having good water balance, especially in this new map. I think it's quite effective, and it's not very popular. Not a lot of people make the semi-aquatic build just ever with Suchomimus, and I want to show off why it could be a good thing, assuming I can get those abilities this video. This might be a multi-video thing because I have to grow this dinosaur to be able to use it at its maximum effectiveness. But it's something I'm sure if people are interested in this, they'll tune in to watch. So right now we are in the juvenile stage. So our biggest concern right now is we need to get marks, which are what you get from completing quests, to unlock our abilities. First and foremost, that is the most essential thing. We need to... That's a juvenile Rex. I'm not gonna get into a fight with him if I can avoid it, because even though we are both juveniles, that is a fight that's probably still in his favor. Rex hits quite hard. Alright, now we need branches. But I think he's doing the same exact thing we're doing, which is questing. This is one of those, if I wanted to be mean, I could absolutely try to kill him. But I'm just kind of more in the mood to grow my dinosaur same as him. And I'm not gonna be that guy. Not today. If I was playing as my crocodile, I might be very tempted to do such a thing. In fact, I probably would. But he would have never seen me to begin with. So, when I play Sucho, I tend to run with a very specific build, and it is the same build that I'm going to run once I thought that was a player mega. Once I get this thing grown, which is, we're going to be primarily focusing on our water abilities, because I think that the added combat weight for damage and defense, as well as being able to be quite maneuverable in the water, are really good, and he has some really high damage for a lot of his underwater abilities. In particular, I think I'd have to check what it's called. I think it's called Ripping Bite. Or Riptide. That's definitely what it's called. Riptide. It's a multi-bite attack with a decently short cooldown for what it is, that if you land all the hits, it deals about 90 damage. Depending on conditions, of course. You have to be in the underwater. And you also, it depends on which part of the body you do hit the opponent, because headshots deal far more damage than body shots, but it also puts you at the most risk. Alright, we need to find insects. I know where I can find some, but it does involve traversing some underwater caves, which could be very perilous right now, being this small. Because one encounter with just about any of the big aquatics will leave me dead. Just fill up our water gauge here. Oh, you know what? I gotta... Second time I forgot to switch this back. And that is... to unbind the record section. Because I use that to make my thumbnails. Oh, there's an anthill. Oh, perfect. Just what we need, 2 anthills. That'll give us the exact number we need for this quest. Alright, lakeweed. And we are acquiring... Oh. Oh, shoot! That's a meg. Yep, he's gonna try and kill me. Yeah, is this what you want to do, pal? Oh, you know what? This is a critter. I thought this was a player. I can do this for quite some time, and I don't think you'll be able to kill me at that time. Alright. Come on. Come on. Yeah. I'm telling you, the AI in this is honestly more detrimental than the players at times, especially when you're trying to grow your creature. Because they just are absolutely relentless, And they have, as you saw, a really crazy turn radius. Basically, they can turn on a dime and they're set to always just be right on your tail, which essentially means no matter what you do, they are always going to be right behind you. So if you don't have a good tail attack or are willing to face tank them and take way more damage than they should be able to deal, you're just out of luck, and it is quite annoying. Alright, let's do this, because we do need to kill critters to collect their hearts for this other quest that we have. That's a large frog. See, look how much damage that frog is doing to me. In what world, granted this is a large frog compared to me, but in what world does it make sense for a frog to just be mulching a dinosaur? It's not even the largest prehistoric frog. That would be Beelzebufo. That's a Barubatrachus. I probably horribly butchered that pronunciation. I would be willing to accept it if it was a Beelzebufo, because they were, as far as I know, the largest frog to ever live on the planet, and they actually did eat small dinosaurs. In fact, I would be beyond overjoyed if the secret dinosaur playable that the devs have mentioned for this game was a Beelzebufo. Because even though it's not technically a dinosaur, there are plenty of playables in this that aren't technically dinosaurs, that they just call dinosaurs. And I think it would be absolutely hilarious and very fitting for our new primarily aquatic map to just allow us to play as a giant frog. I feel like that would be quite funny. Alright, we're gonna head back to the home cave and see what I can acquire for abilities here, and then I can talk about what builds I think are effective for Suchomimus. I guess I can't eat that, so I might as well drop it. Rip bass. Alright, let's see what we're working with here. We got a little over 1,000. I am definitely going to prioritize getting backhand. Backhand is such a fantastic ability. It deals decent knockback. Doesn't deal a lot of damage, but the knockback alone makes it very useful, especially because it's directional. And it also has an added bonus of if I'm in the water and I use backhand, I can splash somebody on the shore, which will make them wet, which will be key to maximizing the effectiveness of some of our water-based abilities. So the gimmick with Suchomimus is they want you to prioritize either being fully land-based or fully aquatic-based, and they don't give you much leniency as to which, like, you can't really mix match, but the standard bite will still do decent damage without that 15% if you're dry, because usually your opponent will be dry unless you do what I just mentioned, which is splashing them. But even if you do, even if you lose out on, that would be, what, 30% extra damage, it's still going to be doing around 45 damage, I believe is the numbers. I would have to check the wiki. Which is pretty good for a standard bite. This is what I'm going to be going for my second head slot. It deals 10% more damage if you're wet and 10% more damage if the target is wet. Now, the way that I'm going to be playing Suchomimus, we're going to a lot of times be wet. So this attack is going to deal a lot of damage if I can stack up the bites. In fact, I posted a short the other night of a clip of me using Sucho on another server and hunting a hats, and this is the build that I was using. I was using Riptide. I used backhand to send them into the water, which meant that they were forced to try and swim, which they don't have high speed, and I was just able to absolutely shred them. I'm going to be going for waterlogged once I have enough marks, because waterlogged will give me more swim speed. I'll dry out slower, which will maximize my wetness. And based on the wetness amount, smaller creatures like raptors that have a latch or a clamp, like Sarco has a clamp, but Sarco can't clamp me if I'm fully grown. Tylo can, though, I'm pretty sure. It will make my combat weight heavier, and it will also make it harder for them to stay latched, which is really good because usually the most detrimental thing to a Suchomimus, ironically, is things like a Leighton, which is a small raptor in this game that has very high bleed damage. I'm going with just a standard tail attack for the knockback to discourage tail riding, and I can't show what other abilities I'm going to be going for yet because I'm not at a high enough growth rate to show them. And then his passive is Nictating Membrane. Basically, all the aquatics and semi-aquatics have this. It just lets you see underwater, like, much better. And it tracks fish, so that you will always have an ability to go for food. And I'm just rocking a default skin because I'm not focusing on a skin until I get more abilities. And honestly, the default skin on Suchomimus works really well for me. No players near home cave. Let's see if there's a Sarco waiting for me again. There is not. It did not lie. Alright, so I say we leave this area and we head towards the swamps. We just kind of make our way. Oh, there's something big stomping around on land. Oh, I see it. Oh no, it's a Spino. What's he being chased by? Spinosaurus is another... They are the semi-aquatic apex, which means they're the largest semi-aquatic class you can play. And they are so good. The only reason I don't like playing them compared to something like Sucho, which I do feel actually is the better choice, is because they are exceptionally slow. So you rely on tanking a lot, whereas Sucho you have a lot more options for how you approach combat. You're not limited so much because you have good land speed and because you have good water speed. You kind of become a jack of all trades in that sense. So I gotta find the cave system to get out of here. Actually, I suppose I could just risk going over the mountain range. But I feel like that's just a bad idea, so we're not gonna do that. Because knowing me, I will likely get picked off by a hats or something. Alright, this is the entrance to the tunnels, I believe. Fish. Oh, I missed. Oh well. Hopefully we don't run into any Tylos on our way through this. Or a Sarco, for that matter. Because even if we were full grown, this is the perfect environment for my Sarco build that I love so much, that you've seen with the asphyxiating snap. I probably glaze that more than any other player that plays Path of Titans, but I really like asphyxiating snap right now. Sadly, Sucho does not possess that ability. So we'll head over this way, and then we'll take that backwards path down to the swamps. Gonna make our way down that way. Maybe see if this quest, I think there's a quest giver in this pond up here. See if we can get another quest. There is right there. So the way to identify quest-giving NPCs that aren't going to just destroy you, collect eyeball, that's a new one. They will all be blue. They will all have this little yellow mark on their head, and they're just passive. I mean, you go up to them and they glow yellow. You cannot harm these NPCs, and they cannot harm you. They are basically just statues that you get to interact with. There's nothing special about them, other than the fact that they give you quests which allow you to play the game. One other thing that I think is vital, and it's more time consuming for me, and it would be more time consuming if you're trying to get somewhere, but use your sprinting sparingly. Because when you sprint, your footsteps are much louder, and that's probably going to get you caught by something bigger that might be hunting you if you just start sprinting around. Like I will show you. See how much louder my footsteps are when I sprint? Now I walk. Much harder to hear, especially over things like the waterfalls and the trees. So we'll cross through here. I believe this cave system here will lead to an underwater cave that'll allow me to quickly get to where we want to go. This is part of why I actually like the default Suchomimus skin, setting it to be more on the gray side, because there's so many rocky places, especially on this new map, and we just have good camouflage in this. And then even underwater, it's pretty decent. Think of it like color coding your Suchomimus like a great white shark. That was a roar of something that quite honestly sounded like something I don't want to get caught by right now. I can probably outrun them, given my small size, which is kind of the benefit to being so small, if the only one. But even still, especially early on, this is why I stress that you want to pick your fights very, very carefully. Because if you just rush in as soon as you see another player thinking, oh, I can just go in and kill them, especially when you're this small, like, no, you're going to lose. More often than not, you're going to lose. Thankfully, we've entered a new area, and there are tons of flowers right here for this quest. I do wish that they would tweak the growth rate a little bit to give you just a bit more for quests, because it definitely takes an exceptional amount of time to fully grow a dinosaur. Some dinosaurs are much easier to grow than others. I think semi-aquatics, like Suchomimus and Sarco and Megalania, are the easiest. I don't know what that was. They are the easiest dinosaurs to grow, with the second easiest being followed by flyers. Because you just have access to so much more quests and quick marks. But I would argue that semi-aquatics, above all others, have the easiest growth potential Like you'll have the easier time growing them faster. Don't mind the sound of my creaky bed. Um, because you can double up on quests. You can have quests that are terrestrial based, and you can have quests from the underwater quest givers and do those as well. So you can just get the most variety of quests, which will in turn allow you to get the most growth quickly and marks for getting abilities. And especially on this new map with so much more water than prior maps and so much more like ease of access to these types of things, you're going to be growing your semi-aquatics quite quickly. And then as you see, every time you discover a new location with a dinosaur, you get about 100 marks, and then it's a little tick of growth, which is the only reason I put flyers higher than just normal terrestrial builds, because there's only 2 semi-aquatic flyers, which is Rhamphorhynchus and Thalassodromius. And Rhamphorhynchus is kind of... you pretty much only play Rhamphorhynchus if you intend on being in a group. They are not plausible for solo play because they can't do damage. They are a strict heal, like support dinosaur or debuff dinosaur. I mean, I guess if you just wanted to explore a map, obviously Ramp is a good one because they can fly and swim, and they're so small that you're not going to get seen a lot if you don't make a ton of noise, and even if you do, you're probably going to be able to get away because you can fly and swim. Thalassodromius, on the other hand, is been getting done extremely dirty by the developers because they have been in need of a TLC for a long time, and we have been getting tormented and taunted about it getting a TLC for an even longer time. So they're still playable. Obviously, if you want to play them, I encourage you to try them out. But they lack a lot of what makes the current playables like exceptional. They have poor damage. They only have one attack option, if I'm not mistaken, which is their default bite, and it doesn't do a lot of damage. So they're just severely undertuned compared to the rest of the roster of playables right now, which is a shame because they are a very cool dinosaur, pterosaur rather. I think pterosaurs are very interesting animals to study if you're into paleontology, because there is such a wide variety, and so many of them don't really get talked about, because everybody just defaults to, like, pterodactyl, for example, which I'm not gonna say that's a bad thing. I love pterodactyls as well, pteranodons, but oh, that's a Spino. And he's colored like the Jurassic Park one. Oh no. And he's coming this way. Well, he's not perfectly colored like the Jurassic Park one, but that's clearly what he's going for. With the red. Oh. I'm gonna have to remind myself to, put the Nokia ringtone in there. Yeah, there is significantly more activity going on in these swamps, which is would be great if I was fully grown. I could be showcasing some combat better, but as we stand right now, um, any any conflict with anything that isn't also very small is probably just going to result in me getting rinsed. They're going to dunk my head in the bog. The bog of eternal stench. And then David Bowie's going to show up. He's going to sing a song about it. I really hope somebody understands that reference. Otherwise, I just sound like a lunatic. But honestly, I sound like a lunatic half the time anyways. Ooh. Something killed a Diplocalus. I hear wings. I heard wing beats. If that's a hat, I might be cooked if they decide to hunt me. So I'm pretty sure they can still clamp me and pick me up, which means I'm getting dropped. Like one of those goats that the eagles hunt. Right off the side of a cliff. Splat! Also, I'm definitely going to be continuing with Path of Titans gameplay. It was the first video that I uploaded. It did pretty well for what I was compared to what I was expecting. And I know that there is a niche for it, but I do have something planned that is going to be more of a passion project for me. And I'm hoping it's going to do a lot better and that people are going to enjoy it. It's going to take a lot more work out of me too, because I'm going to be trying to improve my editing skills and things like that, and just make it all around more entertaining. And we will definitely... I just know that that's going to be something that's going to be more entertaining for a majority of viewers. Especially because it's something that doesn't get a lot of coverage either right now. I won't spoil what game it is. You'll have to tune in to find out. It will probably be a pretty extensive playthrough. It is a much, much longer game. And it is my personal favorite game of all time. And it is one that PlayStation has seemingly forgotten about almost entirely. I was shocked that the main character showed up in Astrobot. I was ecstatic when I found that. But it is a game that I think, especially right now, if Sony were to decide to commit to actually giving fans what they want with a proper remake, I really do believe it would do very well. Especially after the success of our Game of the Year winner, Expedition 33. Because a lot of what made Expedition 33 great started in this other game, especially its combat system and how it works. And I've probably given enough hints for some nerds like myself to know exactly what game I'm talking about. But to anybody who's not in the know-how, stay tuned and hopefully you'll enjoy it. going to be definitely different from my current content that I've been doing. This looks awesome. This looks like something out of Skull Island. I can't seem to find any more clams or conch shells anywhere. This is where a lot of the difficulty of this game and frustration of people will come in. Because a lot of it does not come from combat. It most certainly comes from this quest system and finding the things that you need to actually grow your dinosaur enough to play them. What is this? This is what I mean by how relentless the AI is. That is just an alpha critter, one that should not be on land even, mind you. I mean, in water, rather. Gosh, I'm exhausted, so my brain's not functioning. But look at this. It doesn't matter that it's not built for water. It shouldn't even be in the water. If it was a player character, it would be losing stamina rapidly right now, and it would be drowning. But because it's this little alpha critter, not only is it always perfectly faced in my direction, so I can't even get the upper hand on this thing in my own element while it's out of its. But if I were to get close, and I will show you how much damage it does, that is significant. And this one deals bone break, which means that I get slower every time he whacks me. It's absurd. They need to balance critters. They need to just retool their AI entirely. Like, I typically don't like to complain about games. It's a problem when I am more tolerable and more accepting of getting just swarmed by a team of mix-packing players, which is also it has the same effect of being an unfair matchup, but I feel more in control fighting a group of mix packers and losing than I do getting ganked by a stupid critter. It baffles me how, especially how there's people that, like, won't even find fault with that, like, what just happened there. Like, they'll look at that and they'll just be like, oh, well, you know, it's not the main point of the game. No, it is the main point of the game. Because, especially early on, your main source of food isn't going to come from other players. It's going to come from critters. And when these darn critters are basically doing the same gimmicky crap that made old fighting games so difficult, where the computer just reads what you're going to do and perfectly counters it, and gives you no chance of gaining the upper hand, specifically to artificially increase the difficulty in ways that aren't fair or natural. I don't know what this creature's doing. It's just... it's not fun. Like, I don't know who considers that fun. That's like the whole point of a game, is that it's supposed to be fun. That is not fun. And that's not even the worst critter to get done in by or attacked by. That is just... that's arguably one of the ones where if I was fully grown, I would have probably destroyed that thing. Just to say I could, but it still would have dealt way too much damage to my health for what it is. And bone broken me. And now say I was in the water. Say I had that encounter just now. I actually went through with hunting it. I'm bone broken. I'm trying to get to land so that I can spend more time sitting down having my dinosaur sit down so I can heal all the damage I just took and get rid of the bone break. And there was a Tylo watching me the whole time. Well, now that Tylo is just going to kill me without much chance of fighting back. All because a stupid AI. Not even because of, like, any real fault of my own. All I did was engage with the systems that the game itself put before me. I don't know. I'm not gonna sit here and say that might not be a little unjustified or kind of just ranting a little bit over an issue that a lot of players probably don't even have. But it definitely, as a whole, I think that things like that, especially, like, there's no reason for a strictly terrestrial creature to be following me into the water, and there's even less of a reason for that creature to still have the advantage when it's out of its element. It should not have that level of just auto tracking when it's underwater. Anywho, jeez, I'm realizing how boring this video probably has been. If you guys like this kind of content, definitely be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It definitely will help me get an understanding of what people want to see and what they don't want to see. Which ultimately I can't improve unless I know what people want. I know I enjoy playing this game, but I'm also well aware that, especially like this, compared to when I was playing Sarco, which I already had fully grown, I'm sure that growing a creature, while beneficial in terms of tips and like tutorial stuff for how you can more adequately do this as well, I'm sure it's exceptionally boring to some people, and it's definitely a niche game to be playing in this fashion, which is trying to, you know, help people maybe get into it, learn the mechanics, the systems. Especially because, like, there's not a lot that I can ultimately talk about. Like, I feel like a lot of times I'm just sitting here yapping about what you're already watching on screen. But that's kind of just the name of the game with this. There's no real... Until I get into a battle, it's kind of just watching me explore the map, trying to gain experience to level up and whatnot, which I'm sure is entertaining to some people, but I'm also certain is not at all to other people. But that's why I'm going to try and have a variety of different games that I play here, and maybe other things as well. I have some ideas for potentially doing reviews of classic literature that, especially nowadays, a lot of people don't tend to like to read, which I find deeply depressing. But I don't think... I'm of the opinion that the issue isn't that people don't like to read or don't want to read, because ultimately you're reading every day of your life and you just, you know, you don't really realize it. Like, going to a restaurant and looking at the menu is reading. I know that sounds so stupid to say, but I mean, it's true. I think the issue's never been that people don't like to read, it's that they don't like what they are reading. They need something to captivate them. Just like a movie or a TV show or even this type of content. You want something that's going to captivate you. And unfortunately, I don't think enough people know of, like, just how good a lot of classic literature is, how influential it is. And I have some books that technically I could read on the channel because they are public domain now. Because I like the classic stuff. I like, for example, just to give anybody who's even watched this far some idea of stories that I could potentially read and review. All the old Conan the Barbarian stories by Robert E. Howard are public domain. To my knowledge, I did look up a lot of it just to see. And even the ones that aren't, it's not like I have to read the whole story. I can just give reviews on them. Which, if that's something people are interested in, I will absolutely do, because I'm kind of just using this channel to share my hobbies and see what comes of it. But a lot of people don't even know these days just how important Conan the Barbarian is as a series, as a story, the influence it's had on so much of pop culture. Stranger Things fans, I mean, not only was Conan's sword in Stranger Things, which a lot of people know, a lot of people might not know, the scene where Hopper fights the Demogorgon with a sword in Russia. That sword was the Atlantean sword from Conan the Barbarian, which was a pun on how Stranger Things is heavily influenced by Dungeons and Dragons, and Hopper's basically the barbarian class, so to speak, of the main character's party, in a sense. But also that you probably wouldn't have Dungeons and Dragons if it wasn't for Conan the Barbarian. Like, that's how important and influential that series is. And so if I could introduce more people to that, I would absolutely do it, because I think that those stories are timeless. They are some of the most underrated and important American literature that there is. And I think that more people absolutely should consider checking it out, especially because, like I said, a lot of those old Robert E. Howard stories are public domain now, and you can just look them up on the internet and read them yourself. But then there's other things like Beowulf. I don't know of many people from my generation that know the story of Beowulf. And Beowulf is arguably the most important piece of fictional literature in the English language, because most of our language was formed because of the Beowulf story. And it's like the oldest known documented thing for, like, the English language. Like, it's such an important story to read for historical purposes as well as the things that it influenced. Tolkien took so much inspiration and even adapted Beowulf. He translated it himself and provided his own adaptation, but he took so much inspiration from it with Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit especially. That's something that's going to be attacking me, I'm sure. But, like, that's kind of what I'm getting at, is stories like that are so influential. Like, there's things people love, like Middle Earth and um, Dungeons and Dragons, which then go on to influence things like Berserk and Stranger Things and so much things that people wouldn't even think of. And they don't even know the source of it all. Like, the stories that paved the way. Oh, that stinks. I wanted to enter the home cave, but because I'm in combat with this stupid critter, I can't. This is gonna turn... I'm gonna have to title this video something stupid like... Dumb player rants about AI while playing dinosaur game or something. Because ultimately, the only thing I've seemingly done in this is just complain about these stupid critters. But anyways, yeah. If anybody has watched to this point in the video and would be interested in seeing something like that instead of gaming content, definitely leave a comment and let me know, because that is something that I would be more than willing to do. I'm not quite sure how I would go about filming it, so to speak. But it's definitely something that I'm passionate about and that I think would benefit a lot of people, even in terms of education, which, I mean, like I said, there's so many people from my generation that don't know these stories. They've never read them. They've never had a reason to read them. They got taken out of the curriculum, which I find to be a crime, an absolute crime. Especially these days. I mean, there is so much you can glean from a lot of those old stories that I genuinely find applicable to the modern day and to just so much. And people don't even know about them anymore. They'll know about certain adaptations, like I'm sure with Conan. People have seen the movies, heard of the movies. Same with, obviously, things like Lord of the Rings, which I don't even need to explain why that's a big one. Maybe people have even seen the Beowulf film, the animated film from the Polar Express people. But, like, the actual original stories, like, I can't say a lot of people have actually taken the time to read them, or even know about them for that matter. You'd be surprised how few people knew that Jaws was based off of a book. And Jurassic Park, for that matter. Michael Crichton, a lot of people just thought that he worked with Spielberg because they didn't realize that Jurassic Park was actually a book. In fact, the sequel, The Lost World, wouldn't have even been written had the movie not succeeded, because it inspired Michael Crichton to make a sequel book that would have some ties to the movie, but it was his version of the events of the movie, and Spielberg did his own. Like, things like that, so many people don't even know. And to me, it's just cool. Anyways, I think that's gonna do it for this video. Definitely a bit more on the boring side. I do apologize, but big thanks to anybody who has watched this far. I have something different planned for the next video, and I hope to see you all there. Bye-bye!